All right, we got one microphone. I'm thinking the other one will come soon because Nathan, he's a sound guy and I'm not. Hey, I love that song. I love that song. Why do I love that song? Because I can testify to that being true. All my life, you've been faithful. All my life, you've been so good. Does that mean all my life's been perfect? Not for a minute. It means that God's been faithful. So I just want to encourage you. That can be true for you too. Hey, last night I was so encouraged to see you guys say, yeah, you know what? I need that fire lit in my life. I need that flame burning bright. And I've invited Nathan Bell. Nathan is the senior pastor or lead pastor at Everton Hills Church. Yeah. So, and Nathan.
That was pretty good.
Hey, yeah, they like you.
You just said Hills Church.
Jesus.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, Access. Gympie. Mary Valley.
You got to do them all now. No, you don't.
There you go. Shout out the names. Life Builders. What? Life Church. Logan. Nambour. No. Nanango. 316. All right, good to have you guys here. Hey, that just used up some of our interview time, but sorry about that. Hey, I've asked Nathan to come because I wanted to talk to him about his faith journey, and particularly I'm of interest in a couple of things. One is we've talked about the Holy Spirit, the power of the Holy Spirit in your life, but also we've been talking about God's call. So Nathan, I just want you to start off with, when did you sense God's call, and what kind of happened after that?
Well, interestingly, when you talk about call, it's like this, I think everybody's called to something. But I think you're talking about a call into like vocational ministry or, I guess being a pastor or something like that anyway. And it was actually at high school camp, and I can't give you the year, but I was about 13 years old. Now, does that seem like a long time ago to everybody? I did this with Hills Youth the other night. I said, how old do you think I was? And the answers were not very good. Because someone said 70, and that was pretty distressing. But it was when I was like 13, and it was high school camp. At that time, we were in Harvey Bay, and that was fun. And I was just, sitting here like you guys, kind of this awkward, shy kid, and felt like it was Pastor Don Hargrave at the front, talking probably like you would have last night. And I'd say a fire was lit when I was 13. And so that was the beginning of that journey.
So you had this beginning journey, there's this sense of the fire lit in your life. And then, so of course, then you decided to go to Bible college and you got yourself trained and you're ready to go into ministry. Is that what happened?
Yeah, nothing like that happened, but it probably should have. But it's okay, because I guess there's a lot of other things that come along when you're in high school and you're a teenager, and some of those were good things, some of them were not so good. And I finished high school, I went straight into the workforce, started working, married my high school sweetheart. Woo! And there's 2 people here today who are a result of that. And
thanks for that.
Yeah, sorry. I just got on with life, but, and I probably shouldn't have, I think that God wanted me to go a different direction and I didn't.
Did you ever feel like at times like, I should be doing something about that? Did that ever come back to you? Did you ever think, what am I doing?
Yes and no. I always had, so I think from that moment on, I always had I always loved God. I always wanted to do the right thing by Him. Maybe I didn't really know Him that well, but I had a desire for the church to always do well for some reason. I don't know why that is. And I think that was it. I think that was part of the calling that was on me. I'd be frustrated when we in the church wouldn't be very effective. If things were going wrong, maybe sometimes that does happen sometimes in churches, right? But so that sense was always in me, but I was just getting on with life. And yeah.
What changed? Because I mean, how many years was it? And then kind of what changed? What made you go, oh, you know what? Sorry, let me just pause to say, what he said is actually right. He was following God's call, so I don't want you to ever feel like he wasn't. He was actively involved in the church, was doing his best to see it succeed. This is not, a mistake.
No, but there was a little bit of Jonah in me that was running from where God wanted me to be. Right. But God's real patient and forgiving, by the way.
So when did what happened to change that?
Well, that was when you came in, actually. So, I was working and I was managing this small branch in an IT company with about 12 people there, and I was serving. I was always serving in the church. So I just want everyone to hear this. In a sense, I was following God in that way, serving in the church, and but I was on the board at Hills Church, and I remember we were on a retreat, and at one lunch time you said to me, "I think you should think about coming to work for me at the church," and I said no, yeah, and because I remember thinking, well, sometimes things are really difficult when you're serving God in that way, and that was too scary, so I said no, but the fire that was always in there actually just got fanned a little bit, and so when that fire starts to burn in you like that, it's very hard to run from that. And 6 months later, I couldn't run any more from that, and so I remember sitting down with you and said, "Is that still a thing about coming to work for the church?"
You'd said no 3 times, just so you knew.
3 times, yeah. But I think you said to me, "Well, I've been something on the lines of, well, I've been waiting for you," and that was the switch, and started serving in the church. But here's the thing: I always doubted myself. There's no way I could pastor. There's no way I could do what Lex Akers does. But as soon as I said yes, all of a sudden, for whatever reason, well, I know what the reason is, God was helping me, and things would go okay. So I'm running young adults at Hills Church, and I've been leading Bible studies and all that, and people were actually listening. And I thought, well, I didn't think this could ever happen. And I realized that it wasn't actually me, because I wasn't that good. But it was actually God who was equipping, and he was providing what I needed, or what he needed me to have to serve him in such a way.
You supply the fuel?
Yes.
He supplies the flame.
Right.
And that changes you, right? If you're just supplying the fuel, it's kind of hard work, right? You supply the fuel, he supplies the flame. So, look, we don't have a lot of time left, and what I wanted to do was to turn a little bit of attention to last night's theme, which we talked about the Holy Spirit. You've already mentioned that spark and that flame and that fire that you had, and how when you stepped out that made a difference. How has that journey been with the flame of the fire of God in your life, and has it always been right on fire, or have you had to sort of tend that, and how's that look?
No, it hasn't always been on fire. I think the first thing, and it's linked to the first question, is I just want to encourage you all, say yes to God, because it's on you, but it's also on him. If he calls you, you start saying yes to God, and you will be surprised at what he does. But in answer to your question about the flame, no, there was big periods in my life where I would resist. I think I would say I was resisting the Holy Spirit in some ways. I think I grew up really loving God, the Father and the Son, and I didn't understand the third part of how God, the third person in the Trinity, is the Holy Spirit, and I probably didn't understand him very well. And I don't know if that's a lack of teaching. I'll put it on me. I shouldn't put it on anyone else. And also, because the Holy Spirit in you is essential. That brings the power to live for Christ in the way that he wants you to, and it brings you the gifts and the power to live out the calling he has in your life. So without the Holy Spirit, it's literally in your own strength, and you won't see much happen for God in his kingdom. And so that was the missing ingredient, quite frankly. I can talk more about
that. So I'm interested in, I'd like to tease that out a little bit. What were some of the obstacles you had to face in that? I mean, I want to embrace the Holy Spirit, but did you bump up against some things, and how'd you overcome those?
Well, I think the problem is that I always thought of the Holy Spirit as only being some weird things that would happen in the church, right? It's just these weird things that would happen. The charismatic people in the worldwide church, and they're brothers and sisters, and I love them. But you'd hear stories or you'd see things that were just weird. I didn't want anything to do with weird. And some of it is just weird. And some of it may not even be the Holy Spirit. I don't know. But the problem is, what I would do is I would think, well, I'm not interested. So I would run away from that, and not be open to what the Holy Spirit wanted to do in my life and around us. But the thing is, Lex, when I read the New Testament properly, sometimes weird things happen. It doesn't have to be weird. Don't hear me wrong about this. I'm not just focusing.
You're talking about your blockages, and that was one of them, right?
Right. And so, but then more and more I'd spend in the Word, and the more and more that my relationship with Jesus would grow and be stronger, and I really sensed Him in my life, the more I just wanted Him to do whatever He wanted to do, and the Holy Spirit to do what the Holy Spirit wanted to do.
You said you came to, in an earlier chat we had, you said you came to this point where you had to decide that maybe this wasn't a feeling.
Yeah, that's right. And so I went on this journey of, all right, Holy Spirit, I'll take all of you. I'm ready. I'm hungry. I read books. I read the Bible. I listened to podcasts and preaching and all that sort of stuff. And I'd hear all these experiences that people would have when they encountered the Holy Spirit. Maybe some of you had those experiences. I love them, by the way. But I couldn't find the experience, and I couldn't find the feeling. And I was kind of disappointed and devastated in the same time. And I thought, well, I don't know what's everyone talking about, because some people would say, I encountered the Holy Spirit, and I'd be shaking, or I'd feel like hot water poured in my head, and from the toes up, or cold water, or whatever it was. And I think those, and I just thought, well, I want that. I really want to know. I really want to experience God in that way. And then one day I was reading, I think it's in John 17, or was it? I'm not a very good senior pastor, but there's a...
No, you're not. You may not be very good at remembering the verse number. That's. Who cares? You've got Google, right?
Yeah, right. But Jesus said, when you ask the Father for a good gift, He's not going to give you a bad one. How much more will He give you the Holy Spirit if you ask? And it dawned on me. It didn't say anything in there about, and you're going to have a feeling and an experience. Jesus just literally said, if you ask for the Holy Spirit, the Father really wants to give Him to you. And so in faith, I'm going to pray right now. Okay, all right, Lord, I'm asking. Fill me with your Holy Spirit. Feeling or not, I'm leaving this room today believing that I am. And I did.
What difference does that make to your ministry? How have you noticed that over time?
Yeah, and so I didn't ever have that. I've had experience with God. Don't get me wrong. I've had moments of deep emotion, and those things have happened. I've had moments of deep conviction where literally I've changed on the spot. And I don't have time to tell you those stories today. But more than anything, I've noticed how God has made me to be a more loving person. I think that's it. That's one of the things anyway. Because the fruit of the Spirit is all these things that points to a very loving person, and that's Jesus, and that's who we're called to be. And so that was the first thing. And the second thing is that my belief in my faith that I am filled with the Holy Spirit has been represented in the ministry that He's called me to, and the change in the people around me, I guess, that I'm ministering to. And so that's been amazing. And can I have one quick story? I'm going to stand up to tell you this
Adam,
one because
I've
become this preacher. And here's the thing. When I was first serving in the church, Lex said to me one day, and I was the guy that used to do the sound at the back where Isaac is, right? And I loved doing that because I could hide away. And one day Lex said to me, you're going to do the announcements in church. And I said, no, please don't make me do that. I'm 37. I should be an adult about these things, right? But who here hates public speaking? Come on, be honest, hands up. I reckon it'd be 90% of you. Well, Lex said, you're going to do announcements in church. There's like 200 people there. And I was shaking like a leaf. And you remember this?
I certainly do.
And I was like, and I sat down, I said, I'm never doing it again because it was really embarrassing. I can't be a preacher. What's going on, God? And now I'm preaching every Sunday and God's moving. And so, and I just tell you, I can't do that without the Holy Spirit in my life. He does something. I get to the end of a sermon, I think, I don't know if that was any good. I don't think it was. And people come to me, God speak to me today. It's not me. It's him. And so I just want to share that.
It's a great story. And Nathan, I have tracked that story, of course, which is partly why I invited you to come. And I guess what I wanted to say to you sitting here today is last night some of you came forward and you said, I want that flame. So here's what I want you to do. Don't let that flame go out. And just say yes, as Nathan said that. Just say yes. If someone says, can you do that? Can you read that reading at church? Say yes. So can you come with me as we go to talk to so-and-so? Say yes. If they say, can you help me at the Sunday school? Say yes. If they, can you stand up at youth group and lead this game? Say yes. Say yes, 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 yes. Right? And as you do, God confirms in your spirit that call. And I don't suppose Nathan could imagine that, you know, he started at high school camp at 13 and now he's leading a very significant church in our South Queensland district of the Wesleyan Methodist Church as the lead pastor. I mean, who can imagine that, right? You can't imagine what God has for you. But what he wants from you is obedience. Let my spirit burn in you. Follow me wholeheartedly. And then that's the way God works. You supply the fuel. He supplies the flame. You can't create that. Only God in you can create that. You supply the submitted life, the consecrated life, the Romans 12 on the altar life, and God does what he wants to do. Don't be afraid of what God could do, and don't be resistant to what God can do. Just embrace his way. All right. I think you're coming up, so take on and let you know, guys know what to happen next.
Awesome. Let's just encourage Pastor Nathan.